So, you're a home buyer and you're wondering what the whole contract to close process is like and what timeline you can expect. We're going to tell you if you're going to finance, it's going to be typically 30 to 45 days. And if you're paying cash, your typical time frame is around 5 to 15 days, and it could be longer depending on if the seller is unable to get out very quickly, because that is a short amount of time. Now, as a buyer, if you're financing, really part of your offer talks about what is the timeline to close. So you have a couple options. First of all, you can say, you know what, I'm going to close on a certain date. So for example, if today is September 1st and you say, I'm going to close on September 30th, well then you're typically going to have a 29-day close period because the first day starts tomorrow, okay, on the contract. However, most of the time in this area, we are looking at a time frame to close. So generally speaking, most lenders like you to put 30 to 45 days, and a lot of local lenders that go with can absolutely close within that time frame. And what happens is that between the 30 and 45 days, you and the seller get to decide what's the best time and day you want to close. As soon as you get that clear to close from the lender, that's when you decide, hey, on this day, it may be the 33rd day, it may be the 35th day, and if you're clear to close by, say, the 32nd day, and if you and the seller cannot agree on a closing time, then it automatically defaults to the 40th day. Now, sometimes lenders take a little bit longer. So, for example, don't fret if your contract time period is 30 to 40 or 30 to 45 days, and at that 45th day, your lender just somehow isn't ready to close, then you would just have an addendum, and usually sellers will work with you for a couple weeks because they've already invested so much time, they don't want to lose out on any more. So they'll invest with you, write an addendum to extend the time frame. But let's get to what happens when you actually go under contract and what that means. So go under contract is mean you wrote an offer that you submitted to the seller, and through negotiations, everybody agrees on a final price, everyone signs off that they accept this offer. Once that offer is accepted, you will then, and have your realtor, they will send it to your lender for your lender to start working on it. And if you're paying cash, you skip the lender and it goes right to the title company. So even if you are using a lender, the realtor will also send it to the title company and to the lender at the same time. Now you're able to choose whatever title company in the area you want to use. A lot of times most buyers go with one their realtor recommends because they're someone they know, like, and trust and knows going to get the job done and do a great job and make sure that you can close on time. So a lot of time it is good to go with who your realtor recommends because again, they have that relationship with them as well, and they'll work hard for you to get the job done. And same thing for a lender. I really recommend too, you find a lender that is local and you recommend because they can really, they know the area, they know the time frame, they can get the job done as well, and you're on the same time zone as well. So that's something to think about when it's not a local lender. So once your realtor gets the contract over to the lender and the title company to start working, the next thing you need to do is you need to first make sure you get your earnest money deposit to your realtor, because your realtor will have to send that as proof to the other realtor to show the seller that you're serious. Earnest money deposit is a check that's written that is usually between $500 up to maybe $2,500, $10,000. The amount is going to be predetermined when you write the offer and agreed by everybody. So you would write a check. That check does get deposited into an escrow account. So make sure you have to have funds in your account in order for that check to clear, and you will get that check back to you as a credit at closing, either towards your closing cost or down payment. And if you have down payment assistance and things like that, you actually may get that check physically back to you if you don't have a down payment and you don't have any closing costs. So you'll have to write your earnest money deposit. Also, you want to schedule your inspection time frame. So inspection generally is between 0 to 14 days. What we see is more around the 10 to 12 days, but sometimes if you want to make your offer stronger, buyers will put it at maybe 5 days or 7 days just to get the inspection time period over. because the seller, that is usually a contingency. So the contract or closing is contingent upon the buyer being satisfied with an inspection. So the sooner the inspection is over, the sooner that everybody agrees, the sooner the seller and everybody knows that we're moving forward in good faith to get this closed. So again, that time frame from the inspection is usually up to 14 days. And because of the inspection time period, the lender is working on everything and the title company is working on everything. Really, your hard work is done in the very beginning, making sure the earnest check is in within the first 3 days and your inspection is completed within the first 14 days or 12 days or whatever you agree upon in your contract. Again, this is a flexible time frame based upon your contract. Once you get through those, the next part of it, usually day 15 to day 30 or day 40, that's where you get to relax a little bit. And the bank takes over, the lender takes over, and the title company is working in the background. Those are things you generally don't see. But what you will see is the lender is going to ask you for a lot of things. They're going to make sure they need your W-2s. They're going to want your bank statements for the last 60 days. They're going to want your last 2 pay stubs. And make sure too that you don't spend a lot of money and you save, because you want to be in the best possible position to be able to close. You don't want to add a lot of debt because you are pre-approved on whatever it was before. You don't want to add debt to it because it may throw you out of being approved, and you don't want to get to day 30 and the lender goes, sorry, things have changed, you have too much debt, I can't approve you anymore, and you can't get the house, because you'll lose all your money, you'll lose your inspection money and things like that. So it's not a good idea. Just make sure when you're under contract for those days, you're being very conservative when it comes to spending, you're not adding debt, and just making sure things are good. You're working your hours, things like that, because you don't want to have any hiccups when it comes to closing. So really what happens then after 30 or 40 days, when that lender goes, hey, I've got everything from you, it's been through underwriting, we're approved for the mortgage, they'll give you that clear to close. Once you have that clear to close, we want to make sure that the title company also makes sure everything's clear on your home. What the title company does in the background, they're running checks to make sure that the seller doesn't have any liens on the property and that they actually own the property so they can sell it to you, things like that. And once they give you the clear, the lender gives you the clear, we'll schedule the closing. And like I said before, that's when you get with your realtor, they'll get with the seller, everyone will agree upon a closing day, and then you go to closing. So closing, it's an exciting day. Well, actually before closing, a day or two before, we do recommend you do a final walk throughout the property to make sure it's in as-is or better condition. This is the time where you will go and make sure that anything on the inspection that you asked the seller to do was done, and that, again, that property is in as-is or better condition. Nothing happened where the basement flooded or half the roof fell off during a storm, things like that, because you want to know that you have a great property you're going into, and when you first saw the property, it's in the same condition. That's very, very important. Don't miss out on that step. But at closing, it takes about an hour, or it can take longer, depending if you want to go through all your mortgage documents. You'll have a stack probably that big to sign saying you promised to pay the mortgage over and over again, okay? I recommend you go over that with your lender before you get to closing so you know exactly what you're signing and it doesn't take a long time at the closing table. You'll also sign what's known as the deed. That gives you that says that you're the owner of the property and it's transferring the ownership from the sellers to you. So the sellers will sign off, you sign that you own it. Now remember, if you do have a mortgage, the bank does have priority to that. So if you don't pay your mortgage, you don't stay. That's important to note. So make sure you pay your mortgage, and they'll line all that up for you at closing. And at closing, it's a great time to ask the seller any questions, like when is trash day? Anything I should know about the neighborhood or things like that. Are there any events that go on or any numbers of the HOA that I don't have if you have an HOA? This is a great time to converse with the seller and to learn a little bit about the home you're about to purchase. They will give you the keys, you will sign all the paper, and when you're done, you're owning a home, just like that. So again, the whole process from the contract to close period is usually between 30 to 45 days with a mortgage, and 5 to 15 days when you pay cash. I hope this has been helpful. I'm Monica Dunlap, Totally About Houses team.